You are listening to episode 324 of the Peaceful Mind Podcast. Welcome to the Peaceful Mind Podcast, a place for creating the peace of mind you need to be the best mom you are created by God to be. If you want to bring more balance, more joy, and more peace to your motherhood, this is the place for you. I'm your host, certified life coach and Catholic mom, Danielle. In the name of the Father, of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, let's get started. Well, hey there, friends. How are you today? And I want you to know that that's how I think about you as my friends out there. And some of you have been friends for a long time and we've never met. Why is that? Do you know how easy it is for us to be face-to-face and talking? And the reason why I bring this up is because I just had a call with someone who said they've been listening to my podcast for a long time. And it is so fun to, quote, to hear, what she likes, which one was like really impactful. And she was kind of like, I can't believe I'm talking to you. And I'm like, I know, right? I can't believe it took you so long. So if there are any of you who have been longtime listeners, or you know what, if you're just brand new too, you have equal amount of time of hopping on the way to connect with me and talk with me. And I have openness in my schedule just for that, just for someone to be able to come and talk to me about what's going on in your life and seek some of my help. I am happy to give it. And I love helping you all through this podcast. And today, I think it's going to be one of those. First of all, this is one of my spirituality podcasts. And it's also, from last week, it's all going to be derived from the Matthew Kelly's book, The Speed, Slowing Down to the Speed of Joy. So we're going to be concentrating on that slowing down part, is moving towards being unhurried, right? Because none of you out there, I know, can can relate to this, that you're like hurry a lot and rush around and always feel like you're on, the merry-go-round or conveyor belt or whatever it is that shows you that you're just like not stopping. Yeah. But what if I told you that the very person that we're called to follow lived in a complete opposite way of being in a hurry, right? We've convinced ourselves that we're always like being in a hurry is just part of life. Now, come on, how many of you did believe that or are believing that just hurrying and rushing and having urgency is just that part of life? This is how it's always going to be, that it's necessary, right? Do you believe that it's necessary to get it all done? Well, Jesus was never in a physical hurry. And think about that for a moment. The Son of God, who had the weight of the world's salvation on his shoulders, who had crowds constantly seeking him out, who had endless demands for teaching and healing, he was never rushing around in a frenzy. Now, there may have been times when he moved with what I would, or the book calls, a holy sense of haste. I love that. And he was doing a holy sense of haste to do his Father's will. But that's probably very different from what we are carrying out in our lives, right? The anxious, pressure-filled rushing that characterizes so much of our daily lives. So I'm going to be giving you some examples from Scripture that I first read in the book, but I've been carrying around them in my heart as I've just been contemplating this getting rid of unhurriedness, or more so, the way that I like it, the way that I titled this, is to now be more intentional about following what is the greatest example to an unhurried life. So remember the story of Lazarus? Jesus' dear friend was dying and people were begging him to come quickly. But what did Jesus do? He didn't panic. He didn't drop everything and sprint to Bethany. He took his time. He spent time in quiet prayer. He moved according to his Father's timing, not to the urgency everyone else was feeling. Or think about how often we read that Jesus withdrew to quiet places. Luke 5:16 tells us that Jesus often withdrew to lonely places and prayed, even when crowds were constantly seeking him, even when the demands on his time were unending. He regularly stepped away. He made space for solitude and prayer. And I know that you all can do it. I know that some of you, when you do show up, or perhaps have a call with me, some of you are in the pantry, in the closets, in the car. So we have to withdraw to quiet places, right? And can you imagine doing that today? Like when your phone is buzzing and your email box is full and there are dishes in the sink and laundry's waiting, and when everyone seems to be needing you right now, and you're hearing the mama, 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 right? Can you imagine being I'm going to withdraw to my quiet place right now? Well, I do want you to start to imagine. Here's one of the examples that really does give me chills every time. Remember when Jesus was walking on the water? The disciples were in the boat. They're straining at the oars because the wind was against them. They're probably panicked and exhausted and frustrated. And here comes Jesus, walking calmly across the water toward them. He wasn't rushing because they were in a frenzy. He walked calmly across that churning sea. And Jesus was never in an emotional hurry either. One of my favorite examples here is the woman who came to him weeping, allowing her tears to wash his feet and dry them with her hair. And Jesus didn't rush her through her emotions, didn't try to hurry her along to make her feel embarrassed about taking time. He let her express what was in her heart fully. And I beautifully think about this with your child. Really, it's a terrible day, is crying, upset. And sometimes we're trying to rush them through oh, now's not the time. And I was in the middle of cooking dinner and, it's going to be okay. Don't cry, right? And what if we just followed Jesus' example and didn't show up hurried and didn't hurry our child through their emotions either? How different is that from how we handle our emotional moments, right? We're just notorious for rushing through situations that make us uncomfortable. We will end conversations prematurely. We try to avoid situations that kind of distress us. We can look at Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane. I knew I was going to say this. I get tripped up on this all the time. Gethsemane. The Garden of Gethsemane. You just got to say it faster, and then it just all blends together. And this was happening the night before he died, right? Scripture tells us he was deeply distressed and troubled. Instead of rushing through those feelings or trying to avoid them, he spent 3 hours in that emotional state. 3 hours. He went deep, right, into his emotions. He wrestled with what he was facing. He brought it all to his Father in prayer. These are just examples and they're just the greatest examples to go to of why we might want to not hurry in our life as well. And Jesus, he was never in an intellectual hurry either. When he was 12 years old, he spent 3 days in the temple conversing with the priests and teachers. 3 days, not like a quick Q&A session, but deep, thoughtful engagement with complex ideas and questions. And yes, his mother was over here in turmoil while that was happening, but that's for another podcast. Look at his relationship with his disciples. These men, they spent 3 years learning from Jesus. But Jesus was endlessly patient with them. He didn't push them or rush them to understand. He didn't get frustrated when they asked questions or misunderstood his teachings. He patiently waited as they made their way toward spiritual maturity. And he was never in a hurry to answer their questions or resolve their confusion. He let understanding unfold in its own time. And I know it was probably frustrating to the disciples, right? And here's something that really strikes me. Jesus made interruptions a beautiful thing. I alluded to this in the last episode that I knew that I would be talking about this, because this one, when I read this in the book by Matthew Kelly, that I'm referring to with this episode, it really made me think of, my own book, The Divine Time Solution, because I definitely call out at one of our time bombs is interruptions. And so this just had me looking at interruptions differently. People constantly interrupted his plans, but he handled that masterfully. They interrupted his teaching, his quiet moments. Children came running up to him when the disciples wanted to send them away. Right? But sick people, they called out to him from crowds. The woman who touched his cloak while he was walking somewhere else. But instead of being irritated or impatient with this interruption, Jesus stopped and gave his full attention. He let love guide his response to every interruption. This just, that one hit me. And I want to be really clear. Yes, Jesus was divine, okay? We're human. Jesus was divine. So he had access. He had access to power and wisdom that we don't have. It's a mystery still to us and will be. And I know some of you might be thinking, well, that's nice for Jesus, right? Because he was divine, had access to power and wisdom that I don't have. But that's I can't live like that. But you can. And that's what I'm inviting. And I've spoken to this. This is what I want you to consider. In my book, The Cyclone Mom Method, I talk about questioning the notion that we need to hurry in order to get things done. I have worked with hundreds of moms who believe that always being in a hurry was just part of life and that rushing was what was necessary to manage everything on their plates. Hello, me included, because I work with myself every day. That was me. I believe that too. I don't believe it anymore. Because what I discovered, again, both in my own life and through coaching so many wonderful women, is that this belief simply isn't true. When you find yourself feeling hurried and rushed, when I notice it, that little panic rising because you feel behind or wanting to turn up the speed and just kind of get something over with, I've learned to ask myself one question. What is God's rhythm? That's what I speak to in the book, The Cyclone Mom Method. This is the same as looking to Jesus' life. How many times did he prioritize time alone in prayer? When you think about his nature, what comes to mind? He was calm, present, unhurried, slow in the most beautiful sense of that word. He was thoughtful. He soaked things in. This is one way that I connect my daily life to my faith. When I find myself feeling rushed, I call on my faith in this very practical way. Calling on our faith is the first step to becoming a cyclone mom. And if you're new and you don't know what I'm talking about here, this is my signature process, the Cyclone Mom Method. And I have a book, and I'll link that in the show notes below. I want to be in God's rhythm. Don't you? What would that look like for me in the moment? That's what I ask. If I was moving about as Christ would. And that's what I want you to incorporate. Right? What would your life look like if right now you were moving as Christ would? And let me tell you, it immediately calms me down. It removes the self-imposed pressure. Yes, that pressure is self-imposed because I'm reminded there's no rush. His rhythm is the best rhythm to imitate. So what might that look like in our everyday lives? It might look like we pause before we respond to that urgent email instead of firing off a quick reply. It might look like taking 3 deep breaths before you walk into that room where your kids are arguing instead of rushing in with corrections to fix it. It might look like sitting with your child for an extra minute when they're upset instead of hurrying them through their feelings because you have dinner to start. It might look like saying no to one more commitment because you recognize that margin in your schedule isn't laziness, it's wise. And that reference is to last week's podcast, the missing ingredient to your peace. It might look like starting your morning with a few minutes of prayer or quiet reflection instead of immediately checking your phone. It might look like walking a little slower, speaking a little more gently, listening a little more fully. I went to take my afternoon walk today, and my mom was over, and she knew I was going for my walk. And, I'm pretty fast-paced. And she said, I could use a walk. And this came into mind, even though I was like, well, I know. And she even said, I know you walk faster. And I'm like, no, that's okay. And you know what I end up doing? Walking with mom at her pace. And then, because she can't go as long as me, and then I walked on my own, right? I slowed down to God's rhythm. I'm not talking about being irresponsible here, like letting things slide. I'm talking about moving through your days with a kind of calm presence that Jesus modeled for us. The kind of presence that actually makes you more effective, not less. Both professionally and personally, I have learned that when we're constantly rushing, when we're always in a hurry, we make more mistakes. We miss important details. We respond out of stress instead of wisdom. We miss moments of beauty and connection that are right there in front of us to experience if we weren't in such a hurry all the time. But when we slow down to God's rhythm, when we move with that calm presence that Jesus demonstrated, everything changes for the better. We become more patient with our children. We make better decisions. We notice the good things happening around us. We respond from a place of peace instead of panic. And that's what I want for you. And I'm going to acknowledge something here. It's not always easy in a culture that glorifies busy and celebrates speed. We live in a world that tells us faster is better, more is better, constant motion equals productivity. And that's probably not going to end anytime soon. But you're here, and you're hearing this now, so you were meant to. And I want to offer you were called to something different, to go against the norm, to follow the example of someone who knew that presence mattered way more than productivity, who understood that being matters more than doing, who demonstrated that and did it, that showed us you can care deeply about your mission. We've got missions, moms. I know it. But we can do that and still move through life with calm, unhurried grace. It doesn't mean don't have goals or deadlines or responsibilities. It means that we hold all of those things with open hands instead of like clenched fists. It means we trust God's timing instead of demanding our own. It means we choose peace over panic, presence over pressure. So if you're willing, the next time you feel that familiar rush or urgency, that pressure to speed up and get through whatever you're doing, pause for just a moment, take a breath, ask yourself, what is God's rhythm right now? Maybe it's slowing down your steps as you walk through the house. Maybe it's taking an extra moment to really listen when your child's telling you about your day. Maybe you're choosing to do one thing well instead of 3 things poorly. Give yourself permission to rest without guilt. Whatever it is, trust that moving in God's rhythm will enhance your life greatly. It will bring you more peace, more presence, more joy. It will help you become the calm, grounded woman you want to be instead of the hurried, harried version of yourself that stress creates. And remember, Mama, God is never in a hurry, and He's the most beautiful example to go to. His rhythm is steady, peaceful, intentional. And when we align ourselves with that rhythm, we find the spaciousness and peace our hearts are truly longing for. Thank you for spending this time with me today. I hope that you feel moved to move through your days with a new kind of unhurried grace that Jesus modeled for us. And again, I wanted to mention that I've been reading the book, Slowing Down to the Speed of Joy, and many of the insights that I spoke of today are woven through what that beautiful book, alongside the principles that I teach in the Cyclone Mom Method, my own book. And if you're interested in learning more about how to move out of overwhelm into a calm confidence in your daily life, the next best step would be for you to schedule a free Peaceful Mom strategy call with me. You can also always go to danielletienel.com and let's explore what it might look like for you to step into the calm center that is available for you in your life. And when you do, it's just super hard to do it on your own. Sometimes you can't see what you can't see. And I would love to be of help if you're in a place that you are looking for some. All right, everyone. Thank you again for being here. And I'll be back next week with another episode. And until next time, may peace be with you always. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode of the Peaceful Mind podcast. If you found value in today's episode, I'd be so grateful if you could subscribe and leave a review. It not only supports the podcast, but ensures you don't miss out on future episodes packed with insights and tools to create peace of mind in your busy mom life. And if you're of the Catholic faith like me or any Christian mom seeking to feel better in any area of your life and to show up more calm, connected, and confident, I can help. Become an empowered mom who knows how to bring about the changes you desire, no matter the circumstances. Whether you need one-on-one guidance to get there, prefer a group coaching program with like-minded women, or a self-study course, I've got you covered. Explore my private one-on-one packages, join my Busy to Balance group life coaching program, or delve into my signature course, Divine Time. To find out which path is right for you, let's meet and see what's the best fit. Schedule a free call with me at danielletienel.com or send me a direct message on Facebook or Instagram at Danielle Tienel Coaching. And also, don't forget to get your copy of my book, The Cyclone Mom Method, How to Call on Your God-Given Power to Remain Calm, in control, and confident as a busy mom. Dive into the digital and bonus audio version when you go to book.danielletienel.com/new-book. You'll find all the details in the show notes too. Until next time, peace be with you always.